Hey everybody, welcome back to the pod. I'm Vivian.
I'm Addison.
Today we're going to be talking about fashion, specifically fast fashion, and how it is affecting our society. To begin, I think fast fashion companies that are from different countries are allowing us to be supporting other countries that we're already in debt with.
Whenever we look at the economic implications of fast fashion and supporting other countries, but the really interesting part of fast fashion, to me at least, is how it's affecting the environment. The cycle of clothes, how long we wear them, it has gotten way shorter. The average item of clothing only gets 7 wears before it is put in a landfill.
How fast clothes can end up in a landfill, especially if they're from a fast fashion brand.
Right. Looking at the Sheins and the Temus and all of those, the clothes that they make, they aren't made to last, number one. And number two, they aren't made with being timeless in mind.
Yeah, they're very
They're very micro-trend.
Yeah,
That's a huge buzzword that I'm seeing a lot right now is micro-trend. So I think it's just really interesting that we can see something come and go so fast.
I've been to Goodwill, Plato's Closet, things like that. You see so many clothes that have the tag Shein on them.
Right.
So people are buying clothes from Shein, wearing it for a little bit, realizing, oh, this isn't what I want. Or it was a trend because Shein is very flashy on their website and all about the trends and being popular. That's their brand. And so people buy these trendy clothes for 96 cents just for a wear, and then they give it to Goodwill. And some people don't even give it to Goodwill. They end up in landfills.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm not guilty of ordering off of Shein because I have in the past, but very, very quickly those clothes started to fall apart.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to sit and pretend like Shein is the only company that's guilty of this. It is not just those brands that are incredibly cheap and incredibly eye-catching because they are so cheap and so trendy. Other brands are guilty of a lot of the crimes of fast fashion, mistreatment of workers, bad labor conditions, bad environmental practices. They are not just guilty of that. It's not just Shein factories that are doing that. So many reports and documentaries of horrible labor conditions, horrible environmental practices. You can buy a piece that is meant to be timeless, and it could still have a lot of bad things that went into it. So it's not just fast fashion that we're looking at whenever we're criticizing this. It's the fashion industry as a whole for perpetuating such a culture that allows for stuff like this to happen and kind of requires it to have clothes. We can't honestly go into the mall and find a sustainable, good brand. It's really hard to find something like that.
Yeah, and going back to the trends, it's kind of branching off to a more social thing, but you see these young girls who are maybe 10 through 12 and sometimes younger, they're on Instagram. They have Instagram accounts, and you can see them with their skincare and their clothes, and they buy from Shein too. So, yes, it's the parents letting them. So we have to look at these parents who are raising a new generation of girls who are buying all these clothes and all these things because they want to be trendy. I think we should just let kids be kids and really tell them that natural beauty is perfect.
So often we see society wanting to push girls towards being older faster in a way that I would say just isn't really beneficial to them.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how we're, again, pushing that 7 to 11 age range to be mature faster, be adult quicker. And I think that can really be damaging, especially even if they don't realize it, the way that it weighs on you to have to be so mature for so long and so early, especially whenever your peers aren't. So I think that's another really interesting aspect of fast fashion is the fact that it's kind of removing, cutting off that childhood at 10 for a lot of girls. It's ruining fashion as an art because fashion is an art, and a lot of really well-designed fashion, if we look at pre-90s, is really artful, but now with fast fashion we see everything being a micro trend. So it's kind of removing the art aspect of fashion. It's absolutely destroying the environment. Microplastics are entering water at an alarming rate. Shipping puts tons and tons of carbon into the atmosphere every day. It's also ruining like the mental health of a whole generation. I would say like anyone born between 2009 and now, honestly, are having to contend with like a whole new world. I think it's really going to like create a new culture around children and children's fashion and how we perceive children and young girls in society.
I had like an emergency phone when I was younger.
Yeah, I didn't get a phone till I was 13, like a phone that worked, period.
Yeah, but like a real phone,
Yeah.
I didn't get one until maybe middle school,
Right.
high school.
And I think it's really interesting just to see how like quickly we're allowing children to have access to so much of social media.
These kids they're being born and they're like, here's your Instagram handle.
Yeah, it's just
like,
not, it's really an interesting culture that we're seeing and a really interesting new environment that we're seeing. And I think it's really going to play out in a way that we're either going to see as these 2010s babies grow up, we're either going to see them completely turn away from social media or we're going to see them delve more into it.
These Gen Alpha kids.
Yeah,
these Gen Alpha kids
yeah,
on
honestly.
social media. Well, now you see, like, none of these kids want to have, like, I don't want to say actual job, but really it is an actual job. Like, you don't hear kids saying, I want to be a firefighter or a doctor or a lawyer anymore. You hear, I'm going to be an influencer.
Right.
So, like, everybody can't be an influencer.
And it's, I mean, yes, the everything can be a celebrity thing. I think it's making that bigger for kids. And we've always seen kids have the aspirations of singer, actress, stuff like that. But I think it's really interesting, especially as journalism students and especially as kids who are so involved. And we have to be to like do student journalism well.
I think social media and especially is kind of ruining kids' minds,
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but honestly, it's true.
Yeah, and honestly, like the amount of anxiety that kids experience today, just within like fear mongering and stuff, but also just like being scared to not fit in.
It's the parents that are maybe they're not going up to their kid and saying, hey, you don't need to be different, but a kid is asking for something and their parents indulge it. So to that, like, psychologically, that makes the kid think, oh, my mom doesn't want me to be different. So I was raised being told that it's okay to be different.
As people who are active on social media, we have to kind of consciously ask ourselves, are we perpetuating a society that we don't want? If that's true, we need to remove ourselves from it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's, like, it's not just fashion like the clothes we wear. Fashion is also what we participate in.
Just focus on how living our life how we want to and be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for listening.